Weirding Way Media.
Welcome to episode 138 of the Filmumentaries Podcast. This is Jamie Benning, your host and the sole creator of the show. Thanks for joining me once again, or maybe it's your first time. Could be your first time. You've got a lot of catching up to do. This week I'm speaking with author and film historian and former guest of this podcast, Jay Glennie, whose new book, The Making of Quentin Tarantino's Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, offers a deep, I would say vivid look at how Tarantino's ninth film came together. Jay's known for his detailed work on his books about Raging Bull, Taxi Driver and The Deer Hunter, but this one, it kind of sits in a different place, I think, for me, because the film is so recent, it's still alive in the memories of the cast and crew that Jay speaks to, and he captures in his writing that kind of immediacy beautifully. It feels like the film is really unfolding in front of you, being made in front of you. Before we get into that conversation, if you enjoy the work that I do here, please consider supporting the show on Patreon, patreon.com/Jamie Benning. There are 120 people doing that right now, but I need more. I really need to double that number. That was my plan like 2 years ago. But you do get video versions, you get early versions of the podcast, you get an ad-free version of the podcast as well. And your support keeps these conversations going. You'll find the link in the show notes. So here's my conversation with Jay Glennie, and I'll be back at the end for a bit more jabbering on.
I mean, I spent a couple of years in a cocoon writing this, and it's just slowly getting out there, and the response has been really good, but you never know, do you?
This is it. But I mean, it really feels like, I loved your work before. Like, I mean, I've read a couple of your books, and one of them, the Raging Bull one, I damaged slightly moving some books around, so I had to buy another copy of it because I want it there, like pristine, But this feels like a real step up again. I mean, you've made your name. Let's jump in here, Jay. You've made your name chronicling, great films from the past, where you're piecing together history at a certain distance. But with this one, the story is it's still warm, isn't it? And recent, and everyone involved has still got that kind of energy in their memories. That really comes across in your writing. You can really feel that in your writing and their testimonials. Did that sort of change your process with regards to how you kind of done things before? Is there less of a puzzle to put together when it's so sort of fresh?
Yes, I suppose so, Jeremy. Oh, thank you for having me on as well. I haven't said that. But yeah, I suppose so in a sense, because of what you said. You haven't got that that sense of time, but I think because of the context of the movie, it felt like it had been made many years ago.
Yeah.
What you didn't have is perhaps, apart from some like sadly a Burt Reynolds, is and Michael Madsen just towards the end of things. But you haven't all the main players are still with us, and they've all got such vivid memories of working with Quentin. I mean, just to go back to the very beginning when Q and I first met, he as is quoted in the front of the book, if you fancy giving one of my flicks the Jay Glennie treatment, give me a nod. And
amazing.
I mean, obviously, as soon as someone says that to you, all over that, especially if somebody like Quentin's stature. And I just sort of immediately plumped for this book, Once Upon a Time in Hollywood. I don't think there's a movie that hit me so much as this one in recent memory. He plumped for Inglourious Bastards because there's a huge backstory,
right? Which
we'll come to it when we release that book. So we were sort of working on those two simultaneously, but I chose this one because it just resonated with me, man. I just fell in love with it. this will probably be like when we've chatted before, Jamie. I'll be skitting around all over
Yeah,
the
no,
show,
all
but
good. It's just a
yeah,
chat here, man.
yeah. So I think Quentin then went on to tell me when we spend the week together, and he went on to tell me that this one there was an idea that he could do a sort of a almost like another story, a bit more of a story to it. And then when he started writing the characters, he was just loving hanging with them.
Yeah.
And that was the part that really I loved, just hanging with these guys. I know a few people said, there wasn't much of a story to it. I love the fact that you could hang with it. I think we're a little bit more in tune with these things now, with these beautiful episodic TV we get now, which feels like film.
Yeah.
And I think I just wanted to hang with these guys, and bloody hell, man, did I love hanging with them.
And that's
And
the
then I
great
got
thing.
to hang with them off screen as well.
Yeah, and that's the great thing that comes across in your book is just everybody who's involved, from the AD to casting director to DP, producers. They all have that enthusiasm for this project, and there is that there's almost like this dance that they do around Quentin and his project, because he's such a big character, and because he's got such a great stature in the industry, and because it's a film about Hollywood as well. There's just something so tantalizing about stories. People just getting this script that's already been thumbed through and has got coffee or beer stains on it, because there's literally one or two of them. And I love that whole process, because as opposed to a book that's sort of talking very historically about a film that could have been 40 years ago, this feels like really vital. It feels, as I'm reading through it, it feels like it's happening now as well, which I really love. There's a real, and I don't want it to sound like this is diminishing it anyway, but it is such a page turner, this book, because I just want to know where it goes next, because it feels like all these threads are coming together. They're assembling this team of disparate people that Quentin has hoped to work with, and they've longed to work with him as well. And I just love the way you've rewritten it. It just feels so, I keep using the word vital, but it feels so fresh and vital. Where do you start on a project like this? Because there's so many people to talk to.
Yeah. Well, you start at the beginning. Sorry, I don't mean that being really cheesy. You literally start at the beginning, and that's Quentin.
Yeah.
But I had struck this, I had this idea when I started these books. I wanted to take myself out of the story. I'm in no way diminishing anybody else who's written anything to do with films, but I'm not a big lover when it's me, and he said to me, and he said to me. I mean, park your ego, guys and girls. I mean, really? like I'm going to be any bigger or better than the guys that I'm talking to. So I love taking myself out of it.
Yeah.
But what I really, it's kind of intuitive, really. I don't know, that I wanted to make it feel like the Magnificent Seven.
There you go.
You can see Steve McQueen's character, and he keeps holding up the fingers as each team member comes in.
Yeah.
And maybe a few people are going to get bored of it by the end of the 10th book with Quentin, but that's going to be the theme. Each time there's a new player comes in, they're going to get their time in the spotlight, and it's going to be almost like Steve McQueen in Magnificent Seven. You're going to feel almost like the fingers going up, and now it's boom.
Yeah.
It's time to shine.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I think that's really that comes from Quentin. When we made a pact at the very beginning that if he and I got a kick out of it. Well, first of all, I wrote it for me. I'm going to cut to the chase. I wrote this book for me. I want it in my collection. No two ways about it. I want this book in my collection, and I didn't want anybody else to do it. So I thought, well, I better do it. But more importantly, all joking aside, I wrote it for an audience of two, and that was me and Quentin. And I thought, well, if we got a kick out of it, other people might. And I think I could have written the book just spending the week with Quentin. I mean, gee whiz. I mean, everybody knows him. I mean, he knows that I love and revere him. But if there's anybody who knows any more about film, then I've yet to meet him. Yeah. I mean, I've spoken to Martin Scorsese for my Raging Bull book, but it wasn't as lengthy as Quentin. I mean, this guy knows everything, but it was important to him that he had other people's viewpoints. And it was important to me as well, because I love doing that with the Raging Bull book and the Deer Hunter book and the Train Spotting book and the Performance book, bringing all these other people in. So as soon as the week had finished, my job then is to start inviting cast and crew. And so to answer your question, where do you begin? Is with Quentin, and then it's bringing in the cast and crew. And because, as we just alluded to at the top of this, he's only 6 years old, people's memories are fresh.
Yeah.
Raging Bull, Deer Hunter, to performance, maybe to a lesser extent Train Spotting. But you're prodding and you're probing and you're. Do you remember? This one was a lot more present. But I really wanted to make sure that it wasn't. It felt like, as you said, I really wanted it to be a page turner. I love reading thrillers. I love reading books that you want to, you can't. Oh my God! And it was really important to me as well that the book wasn't a stuffy book that was going to be that only high grade university students were going to read in film, and this had to be accessible. It had to be as accessible as Quentin's films. So that was my yardstick, really. Bring as many of the players in that I could, and it had to be accessible. So for you to say it was a real page turner, man, I tell you, that was a real heartwarming. That is, Jamie. Seriously, man, that's one of the biggest things I can hear, really, because that's what I set out to try and achieve.
Yeah,
and I think you just hope that I have.
I think you've really balanced that kind of nuts and bolts approach, because you want to get into the minutiae, you want to get into the detail, but you've also made it so accessible. And I wonder, in what you were just talking about, speaking to these people and it being fresh, did you find, because it was more recent, that there were fewer contradictions in people's memory of what went down, as opposed to writing something like Raging Bull, where there's been 40, 50 years of history where people sort of rewrite their story?
Yeah, possibly, Jamie. Yeah, possibly. But I wanted to make sure that I didn't correct their memory.
Yeah.
Because you and I are going to walk away from our chat today and perhaps think of different things and what went down. We'd have so when you've got a huge group of people, there's always going to be a different viewpoint. And I remember sending a list of the people that had agreed to come on board. And it was cast, and then it was crew, not to diminish anybody, but it was just how I'd sent the list. And Q came back with, fucking hell, that's everybody with a speaking part. And I think that's really important, really. Gee whiz, you've got to have Leo, Brad and Margot involved, obviously.
Yeah.
But it's really important that you try and get I hate this word, it's fucking horrible, isn't it? But for want of a better word, a day player, because their memory is going to be as vitally important and to a degree not known as a Brad and Leo and Margot.
Yeah.
Fast forward, and please don't take this as I'm blowing smoke. I now fast forward to me writing Django. That's the third book, which Bastards is written. Django I'm now writing. I wanted to make sure that Leo got an early copy because I was chatting to him about Django. So he's the only player that was in once in Django. Christoph I've spoken to, but I've spoken to him for Bastards. So I haven't finished Bastards, so I couldn't give him a copy, but I could give Leo a copy. So he had the copy of the book in his hand. And it was important for me to that happen, because I wanted him to see the scope of the story. And one of the things he actually picked up on was the depth of the people that I spoke to. And I think that was really important. And for somebody like Leo to not want to hog the limelight, and this is a story about me and my association with Quentin and my role in the film. No, he really, I remember him saying, the production design, you get involved with that. And I think that's just vitally important. But you can't talk down to people and you can't make it stuffy. No. One of a big thing that I used to hate as a young boy, Jamie, a little tangent, was rushing into the newsagents back when we used to buy magazines religiously. And you see one of your heroes on the front cover of a magazine, you think, oh my God, there's an interview with Bowie, David Sylvian, or one of your great actors. And you'd get this magazine home, and it's literally, there was nothing of any consequence about the person. Yeah. Whoever the interviewee was, has put themselves in. They've got an agenda, and they've just written about this person that you admire, and you've got no context. You've learnt nothing from it.
Yeah.
So yeah, that was another benchmark. I wanted to make sure that you guys went away with come on, Phil and know you were there, like I was there. Look, I'm not on these film sets,
Yeah.
so I'm learning as much as you guys reading it.
Yeah, and that's what I think you've managed to do really, really well. I'm thinking throughout, up to where I've got, which is just beyond halfway at the moment, that you've given a real gift to these people that were involved in the film as well. They've got this historical tome. I mean, this thing is a weapon, it's huge.
It is, isn't it?
Just holding it up now for anybody just listening. It's a massive book. And, for somebody like Leo to, like you say, not just be the only person in the limelight, to sort of take a step back and understand and appreciate his experience, which he's holding in his head, right, forevermore. But this has expanded on that experience for him forevermore. He's got such a great perspective now on all of the different elements that came together to make this, this amazing film. And I was wondering, like you said, you started with Quentin, then you get to people like Leo and Brad and Margot. Have you already got a structure in mind based on your conversations with Quentin, or do you sort of let it flow fairly freely, conversationally, and then kind of put it together structurally?
Yes, it's that approach really. I don't like to be hemmed in, but likewise, you kind of know that. Take Leo for instance. Okay, we would definitely want to investigate his chatting with Al Pacino. Definitely want to investigate his breakdown. A process leading into that as well, his research. So there is those pulse beats that you can hit. But yeah, he's so important. I was told very early on, really early on, in this, God almighty, I sound like I'm on Strictly Come Dancing, my journey. But I was told really early on that by all means do your research, by all means have questions, but listen to the first answer you get. Once that first answer comes in, that can take you on a whole different journey. Yes, you can always come back to these, but listen to the answer. I mean, I'm sure you've done it, and I've done it when you've watched interviews, and you think the interviewer hasn't even listened to the answer because they're literally, you can feel that, see their mouth working to get their next question out.
Yeah.
That answer could lead you onto a whole new journey, and then when that answer comes in, if it is completely you're unprepared for it, you're thinking, now to fast forward. What happens? What has happened is that I meet up with Q. We spend a week together. I come home with what I've learnt. That then is the basis for me to start writing the book. I then invite cast and crew and Mike Simpson, Quentin's wonderful agent, has been a huge help in that, inviting cast and crew, and then we have all those wonderful discussions. And then what happens is when an interviewee, God, what a horrible word, pompous word, but when a contributor, should I say, I've spoken to a contributor, when you would have thought that I could, if I gave you the manuscript, then the book was virtually written. In my book, it isn't, because then with that book, and I then create another list of questions, and then when I go back to Quentin, the first sort of day of our next week is spent going over, Jamie said this, Jamie said that, and yeah, and that sparks him. Now I know in the book, I now know we've got a conversation for me.
Yeah.
Because Brad told me this, and Leo told me this, and Margot mentioned that. Now, for you, for the reader, and for me as a reader, I've got this conversation going.
Yeah, that's great that you haven't just got that one chance of interviewing somebody. Yeah,
exactly. And they've all been really receptive if I have to go back. Then what happens is after that first day-ish, maybe a day and a half, I now know I can park that. Okay, right, I've got that. And then we start work on the next book. And then the rest of the week is on the next book. So then when I come home, I then put the questions that contributors have sparked. Once all that's finished, then I can start the next book.
Yeah, it feels like somehow your book is paired with the film in its ethos, if you like, because it feels like in reading where I've got to so far that the film was given enough time to kind of gestate in Quentin's mind, and there was this rumor going around that he was going to do this movie, and there were all these people that wanted to be involved, and slowly these threads come together, and then he puts it on the shelf for a little while, and he comes back to it. It feels like your book in a way, and it sounds like in the way you're describing as well, that you've I'm sure you would have liked more time, as you always do on projects like this, but it feels like you were given the space and the time and the ability to write something to this level, because there are so many books of this kind that I have on my shelf right here that
Yeah.
are full of amazing photos and they're full of interviews, but they don't have this sort of cohesive nature that your book has. It feels like in some cases they're sort of a puff piece for the photos that they're sat by. In this, the photos are fantastic. There's some wonderful, what's the name photographer again?
Andrew Cooper. Let's
Andrew
give a heads
Cooper.
up to Andrew Cooper. Wow.
Wonderful photography, so fantastic. And it is a book that you could flick through and look at all the lovely pictures, but that in no way diminishes what you've written. I think what you've written is the scaffolding for the whole thing. It really feels cohesive, and I just don't see that in this kind of book enough, because I think there is a tendency to say, right, I'm going to write this book about whatever film, and that people are either using archival interviews, they haven't got access to the filmmakers, let's say, or maybe those people have passed away. But this book, it really feels like the time was taken and effort was put in the right places, and that Quentin, or Q as you call him, which I really love, gave you the space to do that, because he really, like you said in the introduction, he wanted the Jay Glennie treatment. It really feels like you were given that, you were afforded that.
And allow myself to be egotistical. And if I was going to put my name to it, I really wanted it to be that. What I wanted it to be is that the wordies could stand alone and the pictures could stand alone. But when you bring them both together, then you're really cooking. I've got some. You just pointed stage left for anybody who's listening. I'm pointing stage left, where in my office here, and just festooned with film books. And there's a lot of what you've just said. And picture books are beautiful, but if you've got nothing to drive you through those pictures, how often do you look at them? Suddenly, now that's just a picture book. That's just a photo album. If you've only got the words, now you're thinking, I wonder what he looks like. I wonder what she looks like. And then if you've got the pictures first, so even if I've been sent pictures, which contributors give me some images, and I knew Andrew Cooper, and he and I spoke quite early, and Quentin showed me these wonderful pictures from Andrew. But what I'm really, really, really eager and keen not to do is to pin my words on the pictures. This story is going to be written if I've got no images.
Yeah.
I do want the images because I want this big, beautiful book, but it's going to be written without the images.
Yeah.
And now you've got something that hopefully people are going to want to read and really want to get stuck into. And as you said, turn the page. My only bugbear is that this book is so goddamn beautiful. You're not going to want to curl a page back. I really do. I mean, in an ideal world, I'd love a tiny little paperback with no images in, so you could really curl that page back. You go on holiday with it, get suntan lotion on the cover, and really luxuriate in the story. And that's how I tell myself that this book's going to be. Yeah. I know it's not, but it has to stand like this. 170,000 words later, you didn't get a story. And I think Bastards is finishing about 180 odd thousand.
Yeah, what is it? 480 something pages, this book?
Yeah, man.
There was part of me, when I'm sort of trying to read it, and it is this huge item where I was sort of wishing for that little novel size making of book like you used to see on the shelf in the 80s. But maybe, once you've got this collection of all these books, maybe that could be a box set in the future. Who knows?
Bring the whole story together. Yeah, for readers who haven't got, just listen to this, haven't got their copy. What you're going to see down the spine, you're going to see a number, and that's Quentin's the number of the film. And the idea being is that you're going to have to re-scaffold a wall, put a shelf on, and exactly put all these 10 on there, man. They're going to look like the old Encyclopedia Britannicas, Yeah, well, I'm not going door to door selling them, but that's what I want it to look like.
Well, my office is up in my loft conversion, so I think I might have to move the office downstairs if I'm buying all of these. But just going back to those photos, I love how you describe that process that Andrew goes through with Quentin as well. There's just this pure love of the creative process, and some people might call it indulgent, but I just think it's giving that space for that creativity. Like he's shooting all of that stuff, he's then getting them down to a few selects, he's printing them on good quality paper, he's browsing through them with Quentin, and they go in the bin. If he doesn't like them, they're in the trash, and they move on to the next set. And I really, like I said, some people might say that's indulgent, but I just think just being able to give the space for that to happen is just so rare, and being able to document that is just, I don't know. I love speaking to you, Jay, but I'm so eager to get back to like reading
Thanks, man.
the next chapter.
Well, that was important as well. When I spoke to Andrew, I didn't tell Andrew this, but literally, I don't know, it wasn't minutes, but I knew going quickly that he was not going to be part of this story, Andrew Cooper. He was going to be aside from this story, because I didn't want him to get lost, and I didn't want anybody to think that these images are just film stills that have just been cut off of a film and then put in there. That's not what a set photographer does.
Yeah.
Did I know that 20 years ago? No, I didn't. So I thought it was really important that people knew that Andrew, just slides up, takes the picture, slides away all nicely, quietly. This isn't, apart from the Margot and the Brad and Leo first pictures to sell the film, these pictures are not set. They're just literally Andrew being as cool as he is and getting great pictures. So hence why when you read the book, you'll see that he's a standalone pieces. They're not part of the narrative. But what you said there is that I had time to write the book. Yeah, it was important to me that that's what the reader felt, that I did have time to it, because that's exactly how Quentin makes his films.
Yeah.
There's a period. God, you're going to have to forgive me now, Jamie. It's either in this book or it's in the Bastards book, or
I don't know how
they're all
keep
melded together now. But he I think it might be in the Bastards one. So I'm going to apologise to all listeners that I might be spoiling a little bit of Bastards for. But there's a period when Quentin comes back, and he's had Death Proof. It wasn't the hit that he'd hoped and wished for, and people were putting things his way, which were cast iron hits. And there was a moment that no, I'm going to come back with Bastards. Now, I remember Quentin telling me this, and we'd had a few drinks, and I remember I start laughing. He said, "Wait, what are you laughing at?" And I said, "Well, only you would think to come back after what you perceive as a misfire, with the surefire hit of Inglourious Basterds, where, I don't know, 70% of it is in subtitles.
Yeah.
It's killing Hitler. Most people would come back with a comic book adaptation, a surefire hit. Whew, okay, now I can make my movies. But that's not Quentin. So it's this book had to give the reader the ability, the knowledge to know that that's what he is. He luxuriates over his film scripts. They're only going to be made when they're ready.
Mm-hmm.
They're going to be put into a drawer. They don't gather dust as such. They're then pulled out, and then he'll get back into it again. Then he'll carry on writing. Then he'll get another idea, and then he'll go and make a Django, and then he'll go and make a Bastards. But then this one will be pulled out again, and then he'll carry on working it again. And he breathes this beautiful, rarefied air, does Quentin, that he's earned to breathe that rarefied air. And there's very few filmmakers breathe the air that he breathes. And that's not to put him in some form of pompous, elevated seating. He's earned that right. No, this is what I want to do. This is what I am going to do. And sod everybody else. This is what I'm going to do.
Yeah.
And his films are not made because X or Y is going to star in it. And I spoke. I don't mean I spoke, but you speak to Brad and Leo. They're oh yeah, no problem. No, they know that the next film is not going to be the next Leo film. The films with other directors may well be the next Brad Pitt film and the next Leo film, but so they know that the film they're going to star in is going to be the next Quentin Tarantino film. That is starring Brad or Leo.
Yeah, and they also know that it's not just, the fact that he's taken 10 years to come to fruition to the point where he now wants to make it and he knows who he wants to star in it. Those stars also know, and I think you communicate that well in the book as well, that they also know it's a big risk. It's always a big risk, regardless of the amount of time he's taken. Like you say, he doesn't rest on his laurels. There's always something he's pushing. I mean, first time I saw this film, I was filled with absolute dread, like what was going to happen in that final scene, because I know quite a bit about that part in Hollywood history. What was my train of thought on that, though? Yeah, the stars know that it's always going to be a risk. It's always going to be something different. That's what's great about Quentin. He never, yes, he has his signature feel and his look, but he's somebody who's able to create this kind of intangible feeling in his movies, that you always come away with a feeling. And I can feel that feeling now, that when I first saw that movie, you know, that feeling of dread I had heading towards the end of the book. And again, reading the book, I'm so interested in how that thought process of what he was going to do with this real person of Sharon Tate and that final scene and how it was going to play out. I think the story behind this film is just as tantalizing as the film itself. And I can't get over how grateful I am that it's you doing this. Because as soon as I saw that you were doing this, I got it from your publisher, the email. I don't know whether you teed them up to send it to me or not, but I was just like, I breathed this sigh of relief, Jay, because I just thought, I know he's going to do a great job of this. I really.
Oh man, Jamie, that means such a lot, man. Because I'd have rather given back the money. I really do mean that.
Yeah.
With all sincerity. But I'd rather give back the money if you're not going to allow me to do it. Well, man, I've been given this huge, and I do not take it lightly. Huge honour, man, to work with these guys that I absolutely love, revere. And if I'm not given the tools, and I don't need any tools, all I need is somebody to allow me to do it properly. I can go away to do the rest. I don't need any help with writing it. I don't need any help with anything. All I need is the time.
Yeah.
Give me the time and allow me to make something that is oh my God, obviously it's never going to be as important as Quentin's movies, but for him, I want to honour his legacy that he's creating. He's 10 out, boom. These books, you bet your ass they're going to have to be good. If they're not good, you won't see another one if they're not good. I'm telling you, I'm not interested. I can go and sweep roads. These books are going to be the best they can be.
Yeah.
Now, I'm sure 100 million better that than me, but I guarantee you there's no one going to work harder.
Yeah.
And I honestly, that's one thing I've got in my locker. I will work as hard as I can to make these books as best they can be, man.
Yeah.
Because I want to bloody read them.
Yeah.
I want them.
That's the best way to approach it, isn't it? And you've got a long road ahead here. This is a big commitment you've signed up for here.
Yeah, man.
How long a period of time are we talking about for?
Well, hopefully one a year.
One a year, yeah.
Yeah.
You've just put your name down for a decade of work. I mean, another thing I thought of when I saw, your name attached to it is just that I thought of like the Jay Glennie I spoke to 3 or 4 years ago when I first started this podcast. That yes, you were striving to reach this point, but you must the Jay Glennie of the past must never have been able to imagine that he'd be in this position.
Jamie, the Jay Glennie of the past. When I was writing TV formats and I come up with this idea for Oscar winners, and it seemed like a really great idea, and I made the foolish mistake of waking my wife up and telling her what a great idea it has, because the idea was accompanied with a nice Jack Daniels in early hours in the morning. And but what that led to was looking at these Oscar winners and building this, interviewing the 3 producers of The Deer Hunter, and their stories were so full of rancor, regret, and bitterness and triumph. There's a bigger story here. So the Jay Glennie of the past, who had the temerity and the gall and the downright cheekiness to send Robert De Niro a message to see if he'd come on board. I mean, what the beep? How did I have the right to do that? But my naivety.
That's the best thing.
Yeah, thought, well, why not? So I did, and he said yes. I got told that you can't call him Robert because he's Bob. So, next thing I know, I'm calling him Bob. Next thing I know, I've now got a book on the making of The Deer Hunter. So, that, and then snowballed. And then Bob said, no, what's next? And it's got to be Raging Bull. And we said, why don't we do Taxi Driver? Now, let's go right back to the very beginning with Quentin and I. The biggest fan I know of Taxi Driver is Quentin Tarantino. So then I ping Paul Schrader a message. Paul, what do you reckon? He then pings Quentin a message. Quentin says, yeah, I'm all over this. We jump on a Zoom. A couple bottles of wine are quaffed either end of it. And next thing I know, I'm booking a flight and we're hooking up.
That's amazing.
And I mean, literally, it sounds... But yeah, if you're going to put it on a little pin badge, that's as boom, 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 boom as it was.
Yeah, and that's the thing. Like I often say, like in what I've been doing, which is a much smaller scale than what you've been doing, is just leaving that door open to that opportunity. Like, give it a go. What's the worst that's going to happen? When I wanted to interview some of my heroes in visual effects and sound design, like Walter Murch or Dennis Muir, and I just thought, yeah, I'll send them an email. If they don't reply, they don't reply. Next thing, they're on my podcast. I bump into Walter at a funeral earlier this year. He's like, "Hey, Jamie, how you doing?" And knows who I am, and we're just having a chat.
Exactly.
And you start having these relationships with people, and that's what you come away with on a personal level. Yes, you've got this amazing document for the world to see, but you've come away with an experience that is second to none. That's great.
It's one word, isn't it? It's one word with 2 letters in it. It's no. Don't be frightened of that. Don't be frightened. If that's the only thing holding you back, gee whiz.
Yeah.
God, it's carte blanche.
Yeah.
But one word with 2 letters. I'm not frightened of that. Not a chance in hell is that going to hold me back. Or somebody telling me, you're not going to be able to do that. No way.
Yeah.
The only person that's going to tell me that I can't do something is myself.
Yeah.
On this thing. I know that I'm never, ever, ever going to build a space rocket. I know I'm never, ever going to play Premiership football. But this, I want this. I wanted this so bad that, I just went out and made it happen and created it. And I think maybe, I don't know, other people fed off that enthusiasm.
Yeah.
Then as I said, we're fritting around here. Then when you finish the book, and it's ready to rock, and no one else is going to see this book before Quentin. There's not a chance in hell. And then you send him the book, and then the day goes past, and second day goes past, and there's and then there's a third, and there's a fourth, there's a fifth. I don't know how many days it was, over a week. And you haven't heard anything, and you think you're now. There's 2 copies in existence, mine and his, and I'm looking at it thinking, is there something wrong in here? Have I said something wrong? Is there a picture? But obviously I should have known. But when he's working, that's it. Everything's turned off. He doesn't talk to anybody. No one really knows where he is, and he's got his head down working. And sure enough, an email come back. Sorry, man, I had my head down working. Cap locks, 2 exclamation mark, and the expletive with all his. It's fucking amazing. I mean, that's all you need, man. That's all you need.
And I love that introduction that you said he finds it funny, he finds it amusing, because he's hearing things back from people that he's not having those conversations because he's so focused on making that movie. For him, it must be quite an indulgent moment to sort of look back and see his own reflections, but also those people around him. And I'm sure that reading this has made him a more considered filmmaker in many ways as well, because he's getting perspectives he wouldn't necessarily have beforehand. And that's what I'm really think is tantalizing about where you're going with this, because you're now going backwards through his films in a way. I don't know what order you're doing them in, but it is in a backwards trajectory. And in this book, you can see all those habits and rituals and all those things that have developed over time and culminated in this film. I think it's going to be really interesting to see the sort of early versions of that emerging, how he's developed over time as a filmmaker. That must be quite a tantalizing thing for you.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to it. I am looking forward to it, man. Yeah, it's work, but not as we know it.
That's a brilliant place to finish, mate. That's awesome. That was Jay Glennie, such a thoughtful and generous guest. I appreciate him putting his publisher in touch with me and sending me this huge... It is massive. I'm just going to pick it up now. It really is like a breeze block. It's fantastic. He's clearly somebody who cares deeply about preserving film history. And this book is the first of 9. I guess when he gets to his 10th film, there'll be a 10th one as well. So there's so much more to come from Jay. As I said before, if you'd like to support the podcast, please take a look at patreon.com/Jamie Benning. It really keeps this show going. If you can't do that, please leave a review, comment on the YouTube. I'm very close on YouTube to getting to the next level. Not quite monetization yet, but 3,000 watch hours, which means I can do things like memberships on there as well. Not sure I'm going to do that given I've got Patreon, but if I can get to 4,000, I can finally put advertising in there and maybe create a trickle of money, just something. And if you want to pick up Jay's book, the link is right here in the show notes as well. Thanks for listening, and I hope you can join me for the next episode of the Filmumentaries podcast.
gravy